Hi everyone, this is Darren with SaveThePanel, and I'm back with some more Secolarm goodness. In our previous video, we connected the Secolarm to a Zoo's Z-Wave relay to trigger it in a remote location based on alarm events or any event you really wanted to. In this video, this is an alternate installation of this additional Secolarm relay, which instead of using Z-Wave, we're going to connect it directly to an IQ Hardwire 16. So the use case for this is if you have an IQ Hardwire and you are fortunate enough to have the location where you want to put your auxiliary Secolarm to be in a proximity where you can run a wire directly from the 16 to the Secolarm, we can do this without an auxiliary power supply. We can do it without the Z-Wave relay and drive this directly from the Hardwire 16. It's a little textbook, but I thought I'd do a video on it anyway. What is very cool about this, if you watched my previous video, where I, in the IQ panel, had temporarily disabled the audio alarms for the purposes of the demo, the IQ16, the Siren relay that we're going to be using here, actually it abides by that silence setting. So if you silence the alarms in the IQ panel, it will also silence your Secolarm when you have it hooked up in this manner. I think that's pretty cool. So to start, how in the world are we going to do this? Well, let's zoom into the IQ16. I'll show you the ports we're going to use. So here in the IQ16, you can see that there's Siren in and out. This is actually your relay for when the alarm goes off. So when a siren is called for, these two terminals connect. The auxiliary and ground ports here, this is a 12-volt output that works rather well with the Secolarm. The Secolarm has a 550 milliamp 12-volt DC requirement, and these particular terminals can deliver that without much issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the aux here is actually the positive port. So we're going to come out of aux, go into the in port, and then come out of out and go to the positive wire, the red wire, over on the Secolarm, and the ground is just going to go direct to the black wire on the Secolarm. As I did in the previous video, I'll just use some four wire here to connect it all up here and do the connections with some Wagos next to the Secolarm itself. Okay, so we're all wired up. So over here, we'll zoom in a bit. So over here, I have the red wire going to the positive auxiliary, the black wire going to the ground, white wire going to the out, and green wire coming to the in of the relay. So over on our Wagos over here, and I'll show you where we have the red and the green bridge together, and then the black going directly to the Secolarm itself. And I have that over here with our friends, the Wagos. So here's our red and green together, and then we've got our black to black and white to red. So as long as we don't have our alarms silenced in installer mode, let's double check for that. Sirens and alarms, they are silenced. Look, all sirens are off. So if we were in this installer mode and we did our test, we wouldn't have had any action on the Secolarm because, as I said earlier, it abides by that setting. So let's put all sirens on again, the way it should be. And we should be good for doing our test. So I'll arm. And now I'll open a window, and we're going to really be deaf because we're going to get audio from both places, but you'll see the light flash to prove my point. All right, well, that was absolutely deafening, but sure you noticed that that Secolarm goes off instantly with the siren on the panel. There is no pending alarm delay like you get with the automation rules. So, you know, the use case for this could be different depending on what you want to accomplish. But what I like about this the best is no extra parts, right? We're just connected directly to the IQ, and the second alarm comes in a bunch of flavors. This one happens to have the audio siren as well as the strobe. They make some that are just the strobe, and I actually use this same connection in my own home just to have a couple of strobes. The IQ itself and its remotes are plenty loud for my house. So let's take a look at the Hardwire 16F a little more closely from a specs perspective. You can see here that the 12 volt auxiliary output that we're taking advantage of is limited to 500 milliamps max. As I said in the video, the Seco alarm that I was using to demonstrate, it's about 550 milliamps at max, but typically it operates lower than that. So that may not be a good siren to use in production. There are other models that have different features and pull less power. One I personally use is a strobe only and is not a siren. It comes in lower at about 300 milliamps, so we'd be safe in that regard. But also, look here at the schematic of the 16. And it really calls out the fact that the 500 milliamp auxiliary load is really intended for use in motion detectors and any other powered, any other sensor you may have that would require some power. Really not intended necessarily for a lot of other use cases. They do demonstrate an external siren here pulling power from auxiliary and ground. And using the out and in like we just did. So like I said, this is a textbook example. But a couple of things that are of note. If you have a lightly loaded Hardwire 16, maybe you're not using these at all for sensors, that opens the door for things that might be a little more creative, like a special strobe. Also, just so you know, the positive negative terminal here is interesting. This takes an input intended for an older IQ panel using a buzzer output on the original IQ, for instance, where if you were to apply 12 volts DC here to the positive negative on the siren, it will force also this connection to close between out and in. So you could actually kind of leverage it as another trigger. I'm not sure how useful that is in maybe some out-of-the-box smart home automation, but worth mentioning. I will say that other ways that I'm thinking of using this, although I haven't done it yet, is if we had some relays going on between third-party home automation systems and the IQ system. Maybe we had a Zen 17 or 16 or even a Shelly relay that can run off of 12 volts, and we have nothing else going on here. It is possible to pull your 12 volts from this auxiliary output and put all that stuff in the same can or in the same panel, and you just economize on power supplies and economize on the mess you might have doing any type of custom relay in and out. But of course, I would encourage you to pay careful attention to your power budget to make sure you're not exceeding the 500 milliamp max load. So what if you don't have the Hardwire 16F, but your takeover module is the newer IQ Hardwire PowerG, which comes in two flavors, but electrically they are the same board. Can you use this? And the answer is absolutely. If you look here on the spec sheet, the auxiliary output delivers 700 milliamps of 12 volt DC, which is more than the Hardwire 16F. So certainly what we can accomplish with the 16F in the regards to auxiliary 12 volt devices can happen here and more with the Hardwire PowerG. In addition, the Hardwire PowerG has distinct bell output, as you can see there, which would assist with your addition of something like an auxiliary siren or strobe, even more so than the 16F. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video to be informative and maybe even a little interesting. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and join the fun by creating an account on our forum at SaveThePanel.com. Until next time, I'll see you online.